the top 5 best and worst things about the Hyundai Ioniq EV. These are my opinions based on owning the Hyundai Ioniq Premium SE for 2 months, in which time we've done 2,000 miles. The first good thing about the Hyundai Ioniq Premium SE is that it's cheap. We paid just over £23,000, and that's after the government incentive of £4,500 was deducted off the price. The UK government incentivises us to buy electric cars, and in this case it reduced the price by about 20%, which made the car way more affordable. The first bad thing about the Ioniq is the availability. The waiting list is currently about 8 months, and we waited 7.5 months for ours, which arrived mid-September. This is generally believed to be a gross underestimation of the popularity of the Ioniq by Hyundai. They ordered too few batteries from LG Chem and so don't have enough to make the cars. Apparently it takes quite a long time for orders of batteries to arrive. This situation is likely to get better, but meanwhile lots of potential Ioniq owners will have bought Nissan Leafs or BMW i3s instead. Maybe they'll have placed an order for a Tesla Model 3. Bit more expensive though. We drive about 1,000 miles a month, and in the outgoing Audi A4 Avant, that would cost us in the summer of 2017 about £120. We charge the Ioniq overnight when the economy tariff is just under 7 pence per kilowatt hour. So that's just under £2 to charge it up to about 115 miles, and that equates to about £20 for 1,000 miles. So with the Ioniq we're spending about £20 a month instead of 120. Now the Audi is a larger car, and I used to drive it, shall we say, uneconomically, so I'd be happy to say that the Ioniq costs about 1/5 as much to run as an equivalent internal combustion engine car. All my other top 4 criticisms are software related, starting with the lack of an app. The Nissan Leaf has an app which allows remote climate control, charging and status checking. No such app for the Ioniq. I think we ought to have one. The third thing I like about the Ioniq is the regen paddles on the steering wheel, which allow switching between regen levels 0 to 3. It's handy to be able to quickly adjust the regen level according to your driving preference. On level 0, the car has an amazing ability to coast for ages. Unsurprising really, since it has a drag coefficient of 0.24, which is the same as the Tesla Model X, and it's really good for motorway driving. And level 3 is, in my opinion, better for urban driving. It turns the accelerator into an e-pedal, sort of. And this is, in my opinion, the 4th best thing about the Ioniq. I first learned about the concept of e-pedal or one pedal driving from the Transport Evolved YouTube channel. Hi Nikki, when she was covering the features of the 2018 Nissan Leaf. I wasn't very enthusiastic about the idea at first, but when the Ioniq's regen is set to level 3, I don't use the brake pedal anywhere near as much, and in fact I've modified my driving style to use the brake pedal less. It actually makes me a safer and more economical driver. You still have to use the brake pedal to brake heavily or come to a complete stop, but as you lift off the accelerator heavily, the car slows significantly and the rear brake lights even come on. I love it, and I've set level 3 regen to be the default for eco mode, which is how I drive the car most of the time. And this brings me to the third thing that I've experienced with the Ioniq that I don't like. 4 times now in the 2 months that we've owned the Ioniq, the regen level for eco mode has been reset from level 3, my preference, to the default of level 1. I don't know why this has happened. According to an Ioniq forum, it's happening to other people as well. It's for sure a first world problem, but this car relies so heavily on the software in it that if there are any bugs at all, it's a worry. So I'm going to be investigating this a little bit further, seeing what other people's experiences are, and I'll report back on it. The 4th thing that I don't like is that I have to turn off the virtual engine sound system and turn on auto hold every time I get in the car. I wish I could set those by default to be off and on when I start the car up. The VES is an artificial sound made by the car to alert pedestrians to your presence. I find the sound irritating and I switch it off. It's not that I don't care about pedestrian safety, it's just that we live in a semi-rural location and there are very few pedestrians where we go. If I was driving in the middle of a busy city or something like that, of course I would switch it on. Auto hold is a bit like a parking brake that's automatically applied when you bring the car to a stop. When it's active, you bring the car to a stop and you can lift your foot off the brake and the car stays where it is. Pressing down on the accelerator gets you moving again. I actually like the auto hold. It's coming from a manual car. Just seems natural that if you're going along, you put your foot on the brake, you lift your foot off the brake when you're stopped and the car stays where it is, unless you're on a hill, of course. Also, the adaptive cruise control, that brings you to a complete stop if the traffic in front stops, and in the same way you have to press the accelerator to start moving again. So I think if you're used to adaptive cruise control, the auto hold is consistent with that, and I think it just makes more sense to have auto hold switched on all the time. So I wish I could change the settings so that by default when you switch on the car, VES is off, auto hold is on. And that's another advantage of the auto hold feature, in that when it's switched on and you power off the car, the parking brake is automatically applied. And this is my last criticism of the Ioniq. Why can't the parking brake be automatically applied every time you switch the car off? So all my criticisms are relatively minor, and I have a couple of supplementary ones actually. First, the design of the rear of the car, while I totally get why it's done that way, it's to reduce the drag coefficient, which is brilliant, but it does tend to attract dirt. It collects on the rear bumper. Next, when the car's been standing a while and you then set off, I used to hear a worrying rubbing sound from the wheels. The noise would stop after a few yards. Also, I had an annoying vibration rattle coming from the driver's seatbelt mechanism here. Obviously it's right next to my ear, so it's very prominent. So I took our Ioniq back to Motor Fair, who had it for a couple of days. The rubbing sound turned out to be defective brake return springs, and Hyundai have issued a directive to dealers to replace those if any customers complain. And the rattle here is this inner panel vibrating. This is after it was removed when the dash cam was installed. The Motor Fair mechanics have padded it out and it was fine for a while, but the rattle's now returned and it is really, really annoying. To end my criticism of the Ioniq, I just want to say that the split rear window and the 110-mile limited range aren't problems for me. The spoiler doubtless has a significant effect of getting that 0.24 drag coefficient, and though it splits the rear window in half, the view behind is absolutely fine and I've totally got used to it. And when we bought the EV, I didn't expect to be doing very many journeys beyond its range, and that's proven to be the case. Twice we've gone further than 110 miles. The first time was the first full day we had the car, and that was just bad planning on my part. The second was our 230-mile round trip to London, and thanks to some basic planning and trouble-free charging at public charge points, that was a breeze. And so to my fifth best thing about the Ioniq EV, and that is the performance. So on paper the figures are not exciting, 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 10 seconds. And I previously owned a Lotus Elise and a Honda Fireblade, so I do know what decent acceleration is. The acceleration is fine. I mean, I drive the car in eco mode most of the time, and occasionally I'll pop it into sports mode just for an extra bit of acceleration when I need it. You can kind of do a Tesla ludicrous mode launch light in the Ioniq. Okay, it's not a patch on the Tesla one, but you know, you can still feel the acceleration. It's okay. The ride is smooth, the steering's light, it's comfortable, it's a good family car, and if I want a little bit of extra punch, then I'll just pop it into sports mode, like I say, and it's there. So I'm really happy with the performance in the Ioniq, and I'm very happy with the car overall, largely because of the technology, but also because of the sheer pleasure of being an early adopter in electric cars. It's embracing the future, and I absolutely love that aspect of it, and I really enjoy having the Ioniq. So that's my list of the top 5 best and worst things about the Hyundai Ioniq Premium SE. Obviously it's just my opinion. Other people's opinions and experiences will be different. I hope, however, you found this video useful. If you have, please click the like button at the bottom. Maybe think about subscribing, because I will be producing more videos about this fantastic car. And if when you do subscribe you click the little bell, you'll get a notification every time I upload a new video. And thank you very much for commenting. I've enjoyed reading your comments, and thank you also for watching.